we got Coinbase CEO on what a modern day Howey test for cryptocurrency might look like. So, the reason why I wanted to cover this is because people are talking about, the issue of cryptocurrencies being securities, and you have the Howey test. The Howey test is what determines whether or not a cryptocurrency is a security, and this will determine probably whether or not HEX is a security. Without further ado, let's get into this. I think this is a very important article, and I think it's a great featured story. So earlier this week, Brian Armstrong, co-founder and CEO of crypto exchange Coinbase, shared his thoughts on crypto regulation in the US. In a blog post published on 19th of December 2022, Armstrong said that in the wake of the collapse of crypto exchange FTX, the US and other major jurisdictions need to take the aforementioned steps to restore trust. Create regulatory clarity for centralized actors, enforce a level playing field, let innovation happen in decentralized crypto. With regard to the issue of regulatory clarity, Armstrong stated, perhaps the most complex point that needs clarity is around which crypto assets are commodities and which are securities. The CFTC and SEC have been debating this issue in the U.S. for several years now, but unfortunately, they haven't provided any clarity to the market. At this point, it seems clear that Congress needs to step in and pass legislation. This can be done with an updated version of the Howey test that applies to crypto tokens that may fall under the definition of an investment contract. Here's the Coinbase CEO's proposal for a modern version of the Howey test that could help determine whether a particular crypto asset is a commodity or security. So there's 4 legs. That's the way it goes. And obviously, before I read it, you have to keep in mind that in order to be considered a security and be regulated as a security, it has to basically satisfy all 4 legs, not just one. So if one of the 4 legs applies to HEX, or 2 or 3, and not 4, then HEX is not a security. And this applies to all cryptocurrencies. And let's take a look at the 4 legs. Was there an investment of money? If the crypto asset issuer hasn't sold the asset for money for the purpose of building a project, it is not a security. So with HEX, you had the adoption amplifier, and it was a mechanism where if you put money in, you get HEX. And was it for the purpose of building a project? Absolutely not, because HEX was already a finished project. It wasn't a project; it was a product, and it was finished. You weren't raising money to build HEX. HEX was already built. People were just buying it. So if that's the case, it's not a security. Is the investment in a common enterprise? For a crypto asset to be a security, it must be controlled and operated by a centralized organization like a company. A project has become sufficiently decentralized, it is not a security. Is there a company behind HEX? Absolutely not. So is HEX controlled and operated by a centralized organization? Absolutely not. HEX is immutable, code, smart contract. Is there an expectation of profit? If the primary purpose of the crypto asset is some other form of utility, voting, governance, incentivizing action by community, then it is very unlikely to be considered a security. So this is a little bit gray, because any crypto, there's not expectation of profit. We'll see from the next leg, but obviously people buy the cryptos they think are going to go up. So you have that, but there are obviously other forms of utility, which is earning yield, not from the work of others, but from your own work. So there is other forms of utility. So HEX, in my opinion, not legal advice, I believe fails even the 3rd leg. And then, are the profits to be derived primarily from the efforts of others? Is the expectation of profit if the expectation of profit primarily comes from participants who are unaffiliated with the issuance of the asset, then the project is sufficiently decentralized and would not be considered a security. So if the expectation of profit primarily comes from participants who are unaffiliated with the issuance, well, I mean, there is no expectation of profit from the work of others. And people, I think the expectation of profit primarily comes from participants who who are unaffiliated with the issuance of the asset. Well, I guess I mean, are you going to say participants are the HEX YouTubers or people that tweet about it, things like that, because they are completely unaffiliated with the issuance of the asset. There is no expectation to derive profit solely based on the work of others, right? I mean, on the efforts of others. If you want HEX to be adopted, if you want HEX to continue, you could go out there and spread the word and things like that, or it could just happen on its own. But we do not expect any profit from the work of others, and that has been reiterated constantly by Richard Hart. So, in my opinion, not legal advice, not financial advice, I believe that not only does HEX not not pass one leg of the Howey test, I believe HEX passes all four legs of the Howey test. But that's my opinion, and we're gonna see how that turns out. But it does, in terms of like the Howey test in it of itself. Even Peter Schiff admitted that HEX did not pass the Howey test. So did not fail the Howey test. It passed all four legs and is not a security. So I think that's great. I think a lot of other cryptos do have issues with becoming a security, but I'm not going to be like Max Kaiser and beg for regulation and go to daddy government to to get other cryptos to be shut down, because I don't believe that I don't have the confidence that my crypto could succeed in it of itself on its own merit. I need I need centralized authorities to regulate it, which crypto is obviously supposed to be independent of, but for some reason Bitcoin maxis want centralized authorities to come in and regulate cryptocurrency as securities and things like that, which is completely ironic. Meaning, like, you have the Bitcoin, which was created to remove middlemen, to be independent of a government or centralized party, in order for them to promote Bitcoin and continue and ensure the continuity of Bitcoin. They feel like they have to go to regulators and tell them to shut down every other project, which is completely not in the spirit of Bitcoin, and I don't think it's in the spirit of HEX. So whether or not XRP or any other cryptocurrencies pass or fail the Howey test, I think certainly many of them, whether or not they will pass, it's questionable. But I'm not going to go call out daddy government to go and regulate them. But as far as HEX, I think it's doing pretty well, and I think that's some great news. So